All right, so over the course of the next 30 minutes, I'm just going to be doing relatively easy, what is called easy moderate effort on the Airdyne here. Um, I'm looking at my speed. I'm going to see at a minimum, try to keep my speed around 20, 20 to 21 or so. Right now, I'm actually pushing, I know, I'm around 20, 21. And, well, the reason I'm doing this video, partly, is just to keep my effort in check. So over the next 30 minutes, I want to try to keep my effort level fairly moderate. And the way to do that, make sure I'm not pushing the intensity too high, is the talk test. And the talk test is very simple. If you can hold the conversation all throughout a workout, well, in this case, a cardio workout, then you're keeping your intensity at a low enough level where you're not pushing the body too hard, but at the same time, it's not so low that you're not getting a training effect out of it. So that's why I'm kind of shooting this video. It's more so for myself, keep my effort level in check. Uh, Also, just to make sure I'm not necessarily bored out of my mind. I mean, as much as I consider myself an endurance athlete, I like to be outside. I like to be able to actually be out there running or biking or whatnot. But if I have to be stationary, like on an Airdyne bike right now, uh, it's not so much of a physical effort to get through this. It's more of a mental thing. So by talking for me right now out loud, it's again, keep myself in check in terms of the intensity level. It's going to be a way to just spill out any thoughts I have on my mind right now. And yeah, whether or not you watch all of this, well, I'll leave that up to you. But one thing I did want to talk about is how training's been going for me lately on this road to 240. So if you're not aware, I'm actually attempting to run a 240 pole patch basically by my birthday in October. So as of this recording, what was it? April 25th. It's April 25th as of this recording. My birthday is just under 6 months from now, October 24th, if you're interested. And currently, my best is a 249 for the pole patch. That was years ago. That was about 8 years ago. Eight? No, 7 years ago. 2018 was when I ran that 249. If I'm being realistic, I don't think I'm going to hit 240. It is a tall order for me to do so, considering that fitness-wise, I was in much better shape back in 2018. Probably, I would say, somewhat less responsibilities in the sense that 2018 family, I had only one kid at the time. Now I got three kids, two of them under the age of 4, and not having as much family support to help out with childcare at home um, as we used to when me and my wife only had our one child, does make it a little more challenging fitting in training. Right now, I'm not saying all of this as an excuse that I'm not going to hit 240. I'm saying all of this as the reality of things. The reality of, at least of my current situation, as I try to hit this this goal of 240. And some of you might be thinking, "Oh, don't think that. Yeah, you can do 240. It's all in your, it's all about mindsets, so forth and so forth." And yeah, mindset's certainly going to be play a big part of how close I can get to that 240 goal. But again, I have to also have some sort of realism around everything. right? I'm older. I'm going to be turning 40 in October. The training I've been doing, I have to really, if I want to try to hit that 240, I got to dial in my training in ways that I didn't have to think about before. Like even with one kid, I had some time to fit in my training. It was a little bit easier to do so. And again, having some family support to help with childcare. With the reduced time I have now, I got to really prioritize what is it that I need to work on. What can I sacrifice in terms of training, in terms of like training goals, but in a way also, what other things do I need to sacrifice in order to fit in the training that's needed while still being a responsible husband, responsible father, responsible family man. And those are the things I'm juggling with on a daily basis. So for me, the road to 240 isn't so much about trying to actually hit 240. It's more about how am I trying to balance everything? And realistically, can I balance everything? And hopefully this will give some of you, for some reason hope is the word that comes to mind, but it's not the word I'm necessarily looking for. I'll use it for now. Hopefully this will give some of you some hope. Oh, you know what? No, hope's not the word. Some grace. To allow you to give yourself some grace in terms of being able to prepare for something like a pro path or just physical training in general. It can be so easy to get wrapped up in what you see portrayed online of these fitness influencers, or maybe just influencers in general, but let's just use fitness influencers saying like, oh yeah, like I'm doing this, I'm doing that, like I'm doing all these things, I got all these things on my plate. Reality is, well, we don't know what the reality is. Maybe they are able to juggle all that, and if they can, kudos to them. But we kind of know what the social media world is like sometimes. Probably not even sometimes, a lot of times. People are portraying their best selves online and not showing the warts of what it takes to do what's needed, right? As much as I want to hit 240 and I got to look at what do I need to sacrifice in my life to try to fit training in, right now, at least as of this recording, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm actually going to sacrifice anything, it's going to be my training. And when I say that, it's because ultimately what matters for me is being there for my family. And that means being able to still run this business well and still be present for my kids and not just constantly thinking, oh, I need to do this and do that and whatever. Like, I don't want to be in the same room with my kids and be there physically, but not be there mentally and emotionally. Not be there for them, right? So if I'm going to sacrifice anything, it's going to be my fitness. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not going to do anything at all. I'm still going to do something. But I'm not going to kill myself to try to hit 240. Right? I just want to make sure that I'm still doing something. And I mean, this is one thing I'm doing right now. It's cardio, right? It's a little moderate. Maybe I should put more intensity into it, but I don't necessarily need to. So I can find other ways to try to get some of my intensity into training. And the other thing I got to think about too, I got to think about my recovery. I think I'm about to go on another tangent here, but I got to think about my recovery from not only from one workout to the next, but just in general, from one day to the next. Make sure that I'm not always feeling dead tired by the end of the day, so that again I can be there for my family, for my kids, for my wife. And sometimes I got those days. I'm able to be present for all of them. And then there's others, and I'm going to admit, more often than I would like, but there's others where I'm there with them, but I'm not there with them. All right, so anyway, that was a little bit insight as to what's going on personally in terms of how I'm moving to this road to 240. Yeah, it's not so much for me to try to hit 240. It's more of how I balance it with everything. But if we want to get into the nitty gritty of the 240, this all started back in January. I probably had a good couple weeks of training before February hit, and flu bug just tore through the entire household. 1 week I might be sick, next week is my wife, next week is one of my kids, and then one of the others, and then it's just something going on where it affected training. And then March comes around, things are looking on the up and up in terms of families not getting sick as much. And on one of my training sessions, I end up blowing out my low back. I was fully prepared when that happened to not be able to train well over the next 4 to 6 weeks, but I was actually able to get back into some form of training a week later. I'm actually looking at my notes right now. March 10, or is it? Just give me a moment here. Yeah, March 10. I was doing some shuttle runs, and then as soon as I turned and tried to accelerate into my run, low back on the right hand side just seized up on me, and for a few days I couldn't straighten up well. The most comfortable position for me was to be bent over. But a week later, I was able to get back into training, and that was March 17. And there's March 17. I got March 20th and 24th. So let's just call it from mid-March onwards up until now, I've been able to be much more consistent with my training. Minimum 3 times, I would say about 4 times a week, I've been able to train. And how I've been doing it so far is essentially like alternating between cardio training, strength training. And so far it's been working well. And in terms of the cardio training, actually a lot of it has been on the Airdyne because of partly time constraints. Airdyne, I've mixed it up. I've done things where it's like this, moderate effort for usually no more than 30 minutes. I'd like to do more, but 30 minutes is kind of where I've limited myself to. It'll be between 20 and 30 minutes. I've also done a few higher intensity cardio sessions on here, doing interval style. But when I say higher intensity, it's not like I'm dying by the end. I'm pushing it, but once I step off the Airdyne here, I know I'm still good to do regular stuff afterwards. So I would say though, most of my conditioning has been on the lower end of the intensity spectrum versus on the higher end, which is perfectly fine. I mean, if you look at a lot of high level athletes, at least endurance training athletes, much of their training is low to moderate intensity training. The rough breakdown is 80% of it being low to moderate intensity and 20% being higher intensity. Now we need to define what those mean as well, but just using those terms, 20% is higher intensity. And I would say, actually, I don't know if that's necessarily my split, but most of my cardio training, my conditioning training, has skewed towards the low intensity end versus the high intensity end. And so far, at this point, it's been working because in terms of tracking my progress, last pull pad I ran was towards the end of February, I think it was like February 28th or so. I ended up, well, technically I ended up doing 3:32 for that one. And that's because I ended up running 7 laps of the course instead of 6 laps. So if I moved that 7 laps, I was around 3:13. I don't have it on hand, but if memory serves right, my course time after 6 laps was around 1:54. Push-pull split was around 46, and vault was around 32. I ran pull pat recently, so I've been consistent since mid-March. We're now 25th, so what's that, 5, maybe 6 weeks of consistent training between strength training and cardio. I've been able to bring down my pull pat time to 3:02 now. So from 3:12 or 3:13 to 3:02, and that was a big chunk of time was largely lost on the obstacle course. So I finished the course around 1:46 compared to 1:54. I shaved a little bit of time on the machine. I was around 44, almost 45 seconds, and then the vault I was around 31, so about a second off or so. But the biggest difference was on the obstacle course, to take it down another 8 seconds. And that was, again, through mostly lower intensity training. Well, okay, you know what? I should really add it all up here. If I look at all the low intensity training. So March 17, I did intervals. We'll call that high end intensity. March 20th, I did a Leo Fit class. Well, we'll call that high intensity. There's 2 for high intensity. 24th, low intensity. So 1 for low intensity, 2 for higher. 26th, I actually ended up doing an easy run. So there's 2 and 2. 27th, the strength. Worked on the machine a bit. April 1st, mostly strength. April 2nd, I did a TPT class, so let's just call that high intensity. And then April 7th. April 7th, I started with a low intensity, so let's call it 3 and 3. But then I had some time that day. I ended up doing some pull pat course runs, so that'd be high intensity. So let's call it 3 to low intensity, 4 for higher intensity. April 9th, 4 and 4. So 4 low intensity. April 14th, I did the course again, so call that higher intensity. 5 and 5. April 15th, I did low intensity. 5 and 6. Okay, looks like I lied. Looks like I had a split between lower intensity and higher intensity cardio sessions, which would likely explain then why I was able to drop another 8 seconds on the obstacle course alone. I felt slow on the machine still, even though time-wise it was faster. I just didn't have the same kind of pop behind me. And mentally too, when I ran through the pull pat, this was basically 3 days of self-testing. First day, I measured myself on dead hang, push-ups, sit-ups, and beep test. On day 2, I did a time mile and a half, and then day 3, ran the pull pat. So I recall myself probably on lap 3 when I ran the pull pat the other day, just kind of mentally thinking, I don't know how much more I can push it. And I think that factored into my performance on the machine. I wasn't necessarily motivated to push as hard as I could have, which is okay. I mean, even with all that said, I still took off about 10 seconds overall from the last one. So I'm pleased on that front. But again, looking at the split between low intensity and high intensity, so the cardio is about evenly split. I will say though, some of those higher intensity workouts I did do was running on the obstacle course specifically. And I was kind of doing some high volume because I have been feeling my shins a little bit. No, nothing bad, nothing to the point where I have to stop running, but there's enough there to tell me, hey, kind of doing a bit too much too soon with the obstacle course. So I would say next time I run the Popat, it'll be 4 to 6 weeks from now. Most of my training is probably going to end up being either on here, on the Airdyne, or at the track close to my house. The weather's getting better. Can hit up the track a little bit more. I don't think I'll be doing much in the way of course-specific stuff, so we'll see what kind of effect that's going to have on my performance next time I run, and this is assuming that consistency is still there when I'm running for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah. Just speaking about my shins, I was actually kind of expecting it to start creeping up. So if you're curious what I was doing for my course-specific training, there was one where there's 3 sets of 6 laps I was doing. But the 6 laps weren't all being done at once. I was doing the 6 laps, each lap on 1 minute. So basically, I run a lap on a minute. If I finish the course, and just for ease of math, if I finish the course in 15 seconds, then I got 45 seconds of rest before I do the second lap. And let's just say if I did the lap in 20 seconds, then I'd have 40 seconds of rest. So when I say on 1 minute, that includes the run time and the rest time. So whatever the run time is, just minus that from the total time, and that'll be a rest. So 3 sets of 6 laps being run on a minute. The idea behind that was I want to go fast. Now, not all out, but it's going to be fast. The first week I did that, I was kind of holding high 15s, low 16s. And the amount of rest I was taking in between each set of 6 laps was minimum 3 minutes. And I think actually I kept it to 3 minutes the entire time. The second time I did that particular second set, which was a week after, I slowed down my pace just a little bit. So I was running more in the 16-second range. It felt better. But even though it felt better from a cardio perspective, shins were starting to feel it. Because in between that time too, I also was running some laps on the obstacle course. So yeah, I was doing a bit too much too soon. Where I was feeling the most was my right shin, because when I do the mat jump, I tend to land on my right leg. And then coming off the stairs too, I was feeling it there. So I do the minimum. I go 1 step up, top step, touch 1 step down. And usually when I'm touching 1 step down, so if this is step number, this is the top, this is the bottom. We say the top is first step, then second step down, then third step down. It's usually a third step down that I'm jumping off. So I'm looking at the stairs now. I would say I'm jumping off probably 2.5 feet off the ground. It doesn't sound like much, but when you're going fast and you're also landing one-legged, in this case my right leg, it's a lot of force going through the body. So it's adding up pretty quick. I was doing a bit too much too soon, or as I like to say, TMTS, too much too soon. So I'm just gonna back off the laps a little bit maybe once every other week, I'll do lap specific stuff. But otherwise, cardio wise, I'm going to stick to using the Airdyne, either doing low intensity or some interval style training. And so far for the intervals, I've either done 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, or 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. And I'm usually fitting it within a 30-minute workout. So I'll give myself anywhere from a 3 to 5 minute warm up. And if I'm doing 30 on, 30 off, depending on my time, I'll do anywhere from 10 to 15 sets of that. If it's 2 minutes on, 1 minute off, again, depending on time, I'll do 5 to 8 sets. And then, of course, 30 minutes easy here. In terms of the runs, I got a nice little 5K route I got close to my house. So I'll run the 5K easy, which for me right now, about, depending on how the legs feel, between 20 and 29 minutes. But I'll hit up the track some more. I'll likely start off with 400s. And then something I'm actually going to try with one of the 400 meter sets is run a 400, run it quick, and then follow it up with either push-ups or inverted rows or both. The track I go to, there's some parallel bars where I can do some inverted rows. So throwing a bit of a strength element after a run. To see how that is. Like, I'm just going to keep the reps short. 5 push-ups, 5 rows, something like that. But I will be pushing the pace on the laps, on the 400s. My goal is between 120 and 125 for each 400. I'm going to start with a 3-minute rest, and I'll do between 4 to 6 sets, depending on how, not so much the legs, it's the shins, see how the shins are feeling with that one. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at, and when I do those intervals, I'll probably be once a week, and then the rest of the time, I'm either going to do my cardio as an easy run or on the Airdyne here. And that is all just cardio I talked about. I didn't talk about strength training. I mean, I got about 2.5 minutes left here. Or, yeah, I got about less than 2.5. In terms of strength training, I'm keeping it very simple. Deadlifts, push-ups, pull-ups, walking lunges. And just push as much as I can there. I do have to take it maybe a little bit easier on the deadlifts. In terms of grip, got some tennis elbow issues I'm dealing with currently. And I'm using straps for the first time ever to help out with my deadlifts, just to take some of the grip strength out of the mix and just allow me to lift either heavy or maybe more reps at a lighter weight. I'm kind of playing around with it. But strength training is usually twice a week. Sometimes I'll fit in 3. Conditioning, my cardio is about twice a week, sometimes 3. So I play it by ear. And I just keep on, I'm for the most part keeping the workouts for the most part the same, because that allows me to track what kind of progress I'm making. I'm making progress in my workouts. It's usually going to mean there's progress happening on the pull pat and the other measurements that I'm doing. So, like I said, there's the other day I was doing basically the fit test, which consists of dead hang, sit-ups, push-ups, and deep tests. All the numbers for those have gone up from the last one. Deep test, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I was able to go almost full level longer on that one. And I'm also trying to see if I can correlate performances between deep test and the pull pat. You know, if you're achieving this kind of score for the deep test, you can almost predict what the pull pat will be. Now, of course, that's not taking effect or into account what the machine will be like. That's always a big factor, but it can give an idea at the very least. All right, 30 seconds is up. I'm gonna take a pulse here. So my heart rate's around 150, which for me is kind of where I want to keep things when I'm doing moderate level, easy moderate level conditioning. About 150 or so, no lower than 130. I tend to be around 150. Anyhow, that's my spiel for today. Thank you for joining me. If you watched to the end here, and if you enjoyed it, let me know. Maybe I'll do more of this. But like I said at the beginning, this is a way for me to kind of keep myself in check for my lower intensity efforts. Until next time.